But now let's actually get into the game. We are going to continue without saving, because there's a couple different aspects of this game. Oh, by the way, if you're continuing without saving, you're on Italian. I forget what this is in English because I've played it so much in Italian. Your timer starts here when you press OK at puoi attivare o disattivare. And you just said, okay. That's where you start. Because we have no cutscene, we're going to be able to skip 23 minutes of cutscenes. I won't, KK Mac, I won't. But so begins this is the beginning of your run. Your load times, your wait time here is going to vary depending on what console you're playing and what frames you are running on. Right now, we're watching a cutscene. We don't need to do this. If you press A, or you can see on the equivalent of your screen, at the bottom of your screen, you press Y to skip the cutscene, and you're right in Chapter 1, here we are. I didn't even try to punch there. If you want to save 4.5 seconds at the very beginning, what you want to do is spam your fight button, which is, for me, X at the very beginning. And there's a frame in which you can actually punch and move closer. And what you want to do, because your camera is facing this way, you want to punch and you kind of want to go punching up, punching down. But if you miss it, no worries, you're just losing a couple of seconds. You go into the car normally. I normally boost turnarounds to get a quick turnaround here. And you want to break some things on your way. I'm driving pretty terribly right now, but what you want to do is get some fence posts, some machines around there, because we are going to be thinking about how many bricks. You see that there are studs and there are bricks. We want to see how many bricks there are. Like, we want to collect as many as we can, pretty much. I think the total in the run comes up to around... We gain about 60,000 bricks, and we're at 31 right now. So you might be like, how the hell are we going to get to 60,000? But you'll see. And you'll see very soon here. A lot of things happen there. Just driving around, you just want to drive as fast as possible up to this point. Disguise booth. CarNG. The disguise booth pauses you. There's a way to skip it, but I'm not quite sure it's viable in Undercover %. So I just keep with it. Sometimes you'll get a car blocking your path. I'll reset at that point, but if you're just going for a PB, you probably don't need to reset at that point. But as we've got boost, we're going to continue to boost up this hill, and we're actually going to take a right here to get our first super brick. Super brick is how we're going to get most of our bricks. So I'm now going to 2-player control. I'm doing it a little bit slower. First player is going to go down the hill here and to the right to go to the police station. You can see that we've got our checkpoint there. But what player 2 has done is come up this pathway over here to get this super brick, and we want to get this super brick. Gives us 10k, and we want to get it before we hit the checkpoint. RB to jump, and we're able to enter the checkpoint. I get it on PC loads and with optimal driving. I can get it without punching. I do it in about 1 minute and 28 seconds, but that's the very first little bit. But now it's pretty much just an auto scroller from here. We're going to skip a couple cutscenes, and then we're going to move with 2 players towards the computer. You want to jump a couple times, because we're going to build the computer with 2 players. We've got 3 things to build here. And what we want to do with first player is punch over. You can hear we're still breaking things. This is going to preset our first player right by the elevator where we want. So if you just hold down right and continue to punch, you're good to go. I often go back to collect some bricks because, you know, we need all those bricks There we are. We're collecting some bricks. We're just shy of 10, 20, 200. I'm going to skip the cutscene here. Player 1 is going to go downstairs here to get some more bricks, and player 2 is going to do something that we call Franknet. So we're going to go further, kind of near this police shield, and Frank's going to follow us. Frank really likes to follow us, so we're going to go up and around and stick him right by that pole. And if we do that perfectly, he doesn't have to move to hit that next voice line. So we got perfect Frank Minute there. It doesn't really matter for this second part because he'll move beforehand. But if you want to kind of put him right in the middle there, you can kind of lead him through, and that's gonna just one voice line to the next voice line to this cutscene. We can't skip this cutscene. It's not an MP4. This is rendered real time in the game, so you can't skip it. We're gonna go down with first player, and we're gonna do a sequence of events. And this is very particular. You want to hit this box on its right side, hit this box on its right side, and if you just do it one after the other. If you hit it correctly, you won't have any of those other bricks flying around hit in your path. This one's pretty free. You can hit it pretty much anywhere. But that's kind of the fast setup, is that you go on the right side, and then hit the last one. And you should be able to get one after the other, We're going to get our first costume here, and we're going to preset player 2 right by this keypad. And we're going to start spamming our right bumper, because that is what changes costumes. Player 2 has to change costumes first, otherwise you have to press Y and go through this whole thing. And we immediately trigger the next cutscene. Start hitting B right in front of it to get that, and then we're going to go over to Frank over here, and we're going to skip another cutscene. You can see I'm already spamming the A and Y simultaneously to skip that cutscene as fast as possible. I have player 2 go to the computer and player 1, just because they end up, over here. Player 1 ends up down here, so I want to go down and up with player 1, and then I want to go over here with player 2. We want to get that computer, and we want to get player 1 up to that place, up top the stairs, about the same amount of time. And if you've done it right, you've hit the computer, and you've also hit where Frank is. Normally there's an arrow where player 1 is, but we've already hit it. So we can move on. Frank's going to trigger our next cutscene with Ellie. It's going to be fine, but you want to make sure that you hit. I'll show up here. You want to make sure that you hit right where player 1 is. This spot, and then you're going to go left, and this is the big next part right here. We have Office Warp, and this is a tricky one. I'm probably not going to get this first try. I should probably practice it, because it saves upwards of like 10 seconds if you get a first try. But what we want to do is we want to preset one of our characters in the office. So remember, this is the first warp that we're doing. We're jumping here. We looked towards the door. We looked away because we want our second player to be behind the door. And we've jumped now. We're going to warp. He didn't warp in, but that's all right. We've got a second chance here. All we have to do is turn player 2 around and warp with first player. And this is a pretty... Okay. You can see first player up here. That's a pretty common setup for me to do. Yeah, I mess up. I mess up like that pretty often. You can keep it. I normally from here keep it and have player 2 go and do... I'll have Ellie talk here. And I'll have player 2 go and find this key for this door and then just warp to player 1. Optimally, you'd have player 1 in anyways, so you don't have to warp that third time, I think. But I will keep it just to show kind of how this works. I don't think so, KK, but okay. Yeah, so you see player 1 is stuck up here. So all he's really good for is just to warp. We're going to normally want to preset player 2 here to press B, and we're going to find this key, find it. We already know where it is. We just want to hold right, go up a little bit around this coffee table, and we know it's right there. So we're going to get this, spam, click B, and then we're going to warp to first player with second player, and you see we are in the office. We don't need to put the key in, saves us just a couple seconds. Gonna break this right away and build it right away. My average time for doing this office, so this whole first section, is around a 6:05. As you can see, we did it in a little over 10 minutes. This would be very, this is a pretty fast one. Super easy to optimize, I would say. But that is Office. We're going to move on to the rest of Chapter 1. We've got another unskippable cutscene here. It is what it is. We've got a couple inputs that we've got to do. Kind of think of them like quick time events. All you have to do is click a couple buttons, and you're good to go. KK Mac, it's not as consistent.
Ehi Chase, ho aggiornato di nuovo la tua trasmittente e attivato il GPS. Puoi usarlo per orientarti a Lego City.
You kind of have to, for all those warps, you kind of have to figure out a setup for yourself. Here's a cool trick. Instead of moving and pressing A, all we have to do is press right on our D-pad.
Perfetto. Ora basta che tu segua la linea verde e arriverai per tua destinazione.
And here we are, second half of Chapter 1. We're going to go after the 3 clowns. I'm doing down right here. I think it changes for different consoles. I'm going to go down right and press Y here. And then, of course, we just want to use boost as much as possible. Boost in cars is generally very much faster than not boosting. And we're going to hit this. We just want to go fast straight into this cutscene. And we're going to do this with just player 1. We're going to try and hit him, keep him to the right. I kind of failed there because I brake checked myself. Again, this is something that you've really got to practice. You also have to kind of know where he's going to go. We want to flatten him with the car so that he doesn't run. This is kind of an unfortunate Clown 1. And we're just going to spam click B, and you can see we got him right away. Let me explain some things. Clown 1, pretty sucky. I reset a lot of my runs to Clown 1 because I've got a pretty hard time that I want to beat there. Normally, I try to not let him get to that basketball area that you saw. Optimally, I kind of messed up my inputs early on. I didn't boost right away. If you boost right away with player 1, you hit him. You kind of want to go side by side, and then you want to hit into him once or twice, and you just want to try and keep him to the right, because if he hits one of the buildings before he turns left, then you've got him pinned. You're good. You can just hit him over and over again, and you want to hit him. You don't want to just continually press against him, because you won't break his hearts that way, or the car's hearts. And then, like I said, you just want to flatten him at that point, and then spam B click to arrest him. You don't want to do anything with second player here. You can do it with first player. It's hard enough as it is. Second player would only make things more complicated. I did it for a while, but it just wasn't right. He would often go further with 2 players in. You would think, oh, maybe you could get like 4 hearts off of him really quick. You could, but it often messes you up, and it's not quite worth it. Something very important here, though, we are going to go to the next. We're going to spam down on our D-pad with second player and go to our next cutscene here. So we're going to back up, spam down on our D-pad, and we already know where to go. We already know where Ellie is going to take us. So we know to go to the red cafe. And no matter where you get your Clown 1, you are going to want to preset this police car right at this intersection here. So you can see, because this is where we're going to end up after Clown 2, and we want a car here. These cars don't despawn, which is kind of awesome. And you see, we're right here for this next cutscene, right at this red cafe. We go back towards the police station, and here we are. Boom. What you want to do is preset both players here so that you've got one player right here, right in this little crack. And then player 2, you want to have up top. Or player 1, excuse me. So you'd want to have player 2 here and player 1 up top so that you get right into the next cutscene automatically. Again, unskippable cutscene. You kind of get used to like which ones are skippable and which ones aren't. You kind of get to recognize what's an MP4 and what is rendered right now in game.
Nelly, non c'è traccia di pagliacci qui.
Tranquillo, ho appena aggiornato lo
Now
scanner
we
della
start
tua
Clown 2.
trasmittente.
Clown
Usalo
2,
per dare
pretty easy.
un'occhiata dalla terrazza del
The
locale
easiest out
e
of
ti
the three,
indicherà
I
chiunque
would
potrebbe essere un
say.
rapinatore.
E poi?
Lo
We've got some
arresti?
new strats here that we didn't have in our last one. Most of this so far is been pretty consistent with our last tutorial, but now we're starting to get into some new tricks. We're going to go with player 1 over to this scanner, and player 2 we want to go to the right of this red pot. We're going to go down right to scan Clown 2 here. We already know where he is. We just muscle memory it out. A lot of this game is muscle memory. You just want to go through it and just, you know, do at least a couple runs a week just to get some muscle memory if you do want a PB. And then we want to quickly jump up here with player 2. We're even going to warp player 1 here to do some things. Our camera went a little wild there. We want player 1 to go over towards this brick wall and player 2 to activate this special with B. We're gonna go right up next to it. This is a cool little clip that Wizard found. You want to pause and warp with second player, but as soon as you warp, you want to press B. And automatically you move instead of moving really slow with this box. And then you're going to build up to this mushroom part. It's not fully built, but that's okay. You can still jump up regardless, and you just want to jump up to right there, up to the courtyard. And you're chilling. We have one more, you know, here's another warp here. And you see, that one's perfect. Right away. Sometimes you get stuck on the thing there. And here's something very important. You want to drop out player 2 here. So far, it's been pretty easy. As long as you remember the button inputs, Clown 2 is pretty easy. But this is one of the key things to remember. You want to drop out second player here. One of the only times we don't have second player in this run. And we're going to follow and chase down Clown 1. There's really no rhyme or reason as to what we do. But as soon as coins fly out of the robber's hands, we drop in player 1. Player 2. Player 2 is going to be able to go straight to where we know Clown 3 is, because we've got that muscle memory, and we've got that knowledge of the game to know that Clown 3 is going to be down this way, and so we can preset both of our players for what we're going to need to do with Clown 3. And there's Clown 2, all nice and done, 2 out of 3, you can see on your screen. And you're just boosting all the way down back here to the docks. You're going to warp in player 1 here. Player 1 can now move again. And I should mention, player 1 can't move when you're arresting. During that cutscene where you're arresting the clown with all those coins, you can't move player 1. And if you keep player 2 in, you also can't move player 2. So you really want to drop him out. It's free time save. Free time save. And as KK Mac is saying, this is the hardest part coming up. Clown 3 is notoriously, Clown 1, mostly, you know, some skill, some RNG. Clown 2, even if you don't have a lot of skill, it's pretty easy to do. Clown 3 is all skill, and it sucks. I do a lot of goofs here. We're going to preset player 1 here, and we're going to preset player 2. You remember I was warping over here earlier. We're going to instant get the pre-gib. Boop, there we are. right at that position. And player 2 is right where we want to be for the next one. We want to clip into this wall here. We were showing that earlier. We got a first try. Beautiful. And now, I'm probably not going to get this first try because I'm a little rusty. I'm a little rusty with it. But we want to hit this very edge. I'll show you. We want to keep this very line. And if you feel a little uncomfortable, you see this camera. This camera tricks you. And so if you feel more comfortable losing a couple seconds aligning your camera down this line, do it. Because it's not worth... Right now we're trying to be very precise to not hit a zone. There's a zone to the right here where if we fall into it, we get sent back outside the gate. And there's a way that we can prevent besides that, and I'll actually show you. So if you do, so say I'm going along and I go whoops, chucks you back out here. There's a way that you can save it. You don't have to reset anything. Just make sure you don't move player 1 at all. You can teleport player 2 in, and player 2 moves back to where you were. But I recommend just setting up your camera and being very precise about it. You can't go to the left either, because that's an ocean. If you fall in with player 1, you're done for. So you want to be very precise, and then as soon as you hit the ship, you can kind of go up left, lose a little bit of time, but you're being very safe right now. At this point, we can go right here, and we're okay. We have skipped the zone. And now comes these up warps. We are going to, again, jump with player 2. Player 1 goes up, and I will quickly, I would like to show a thing. So you see how player 1, so we're right by these boxes. Pretty much you want to keep, where this gap is in these crates, you want to keep that pretty consistent. And player 1 here is, as you can see, to the right of this little thing. We want to be in these crates. We're going to warp up here. Player 2 is going to warp up into a crate. I saw that he's facing towards the camera, so I'm going to point him away from the camera. And then I'm going to warp with player 1. We don't need to jump at all, because again, warps, after you get the first one, you don't need to jump. And player 1 is up here now, right where we need to be for the next objective. Right where we need to be to get Clown 3. But at the same time, so we're just going to press... KK Mac has been enlightened. This is going to trigger a chase scene, but what we can do instead is have player 2 hit this zone intentionally so that we're back out here. And there's one very important thing here. Normally, what you do in the game is you scan, you do a couple puzzles, you go up some ladders, and then you find it. We don't need to do any of that. We can scan him afterwards, so we instant get teleported back out here. We're going to preset player 2 right by this red crate. Player 1's going to do some parkour up here to get back to this scanner, and this is the kind of tricky part. We want to scan him while he's running, and he'll pause. So if you miss him, you can get him there. But if you don't scan him there, you soft lock the game. You got to reset. And so now with player 2, we can chase after him. We kind of know where he's going to go. Optimally, you scan him before he gets to player 2, and then you're able to capture him really quick with player 2. And this is all very, like, you're just going to have to feel for it. You're just going to have to practice it. But with that, that's the end of chapter 1. Super simple. Not super simple.